Welcome to the Beyond Business as Usual podcast. My name is Philippe Dubray. I am your host, and today I have the pleasure to be joined by Taylor Collums of Collums Construction. Now, Taylor, I'm really excited to be able to talk to you about your business, your journey as an entrepreneur, because you've done well in the last few years, haven't you?
It has been a very growth oriented phase. Doubling every year for a couple of years has been a big burden on us.
Wow. Well, yeah, again, growth is fun, but it's also, it's a lot of random motion that goes along with growth. And, twice in 2 years in a row, 100% growth. I got to give it to you, you and Dina. It requires a good stamina, and I'm sure that you agree with me. It requires also a good team, right?
It does.
Uh, Now, I'd just like you to tell me a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur. Again, entrepreneurial journey, or when you take on building a business, it requires it's a different type of person. The person who wants to punch 9 to 5 and then go home and do their things. That's not for an entrepreneur, right? It's a different mindset. And what got you on that? What I'm interested in, and let's start with this question, Taylor, if you don't mind. Let's get you started on your journey as an entrepreneur. What got you started?
So I actually got the itch long before I ever took the leap to be a business owner. So back when I was in college, I wanted to start a guide group in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was going to take people on hiking tours and do stuff like that, because I had a lot of people talking about how they didn't know trails or didn't know the great places to go. And so that was the first time that I ever really thought about starting my own business. Now, the idea puttered out pretty quickly. I was too busy, had to work, didn't really have an understanding of what business looked like. So I went into corporate America for a little bit, had a lot of training inside of corporate America, and then had a big life shift and actually moved from Knoxville, Tennessee, back to Memphis, Tennessee, which I'm born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. And it was a interesting transition. I had worked in real estate for a little bit. Real estate is about the closest you can get to being a business owner without actually being a business owner. Everything is commissions based. It's all about the relationships that you have. And I utterly failed at it. I worked for 9 months and worked, 60, 70-hour weeks and never sold a house, never got a listing, none of it. It was actually one of the most humbling experiences I've had. But after working for 9 months without having any money, it's hard to keep surviving. So I had to come back home, and I ended up in a role that I never thought would be a long-term role. I stepped into being a project manager and estimator for a commercial flooring company here in Memphis.
Okay.
That company actually gave me so much freedom that I really learned to kind of run my own business because they didn't care what I did. So I did practically everything from start to finish. I generated my own leads. I ran my own projects. I built my own estimates. I did all this different stuff with minimal input from this group.
Mhm.
And I picked up an account there that actually taught me all of the general contracting stuff that I do now. I worked with an account called LA Fitness, and I managed all of their Memphis locations for anything that would come up. If a toilet got stopped up, I was taking care of it. If they had a flood, which happened once, I was taking care of it. I ended up dealing with a wide variety of items that actually got me very familiar with what I do now, which is commercial construction. And so there was a point, and I know this is COVID will be mentioned, but it's simply because of what happened. Everything got shut down, and we as a company at that time had a lot of fear around COVID. And what happened was I was asked to leave the office, not quit, not be fired, but I was asked to leave the office and stop selling. That actually caused me to take a leap to do my own thing because all of my livelihood was based on what I sold and what I managed and all of that. So if I'm not selling, if I'm not producing, if I'm not doing any of that stuff, I can no longer support my family.
Mm.
Um, I decided to start a business probably at the worst possible time. Um,
Mid COVID? You started a business mid COVID.
April 16th, 2020. It was right when the United States shut down. I think it was about 8 days after the United States shut down. I also had gotten married earlier that year,
Okay.
my wife. So to come into a fresh marriage for any married people listening, um, it was hard. It was a lot to navigate. Very, very risky move. Glad that I did it when I did it because risk now is very different than risk then.
Mhm.
And so that is what really led me into my, starting this business was all of these different things culminated and COVID kind of was the tipping point to push me to take a risk.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, right? And the idea of like being willing to take a risk. Because look, I mean, again, I got my own business, and you have yours as well. The future, well, if you don't make it happen, not gonna happen. No, nobody's gonna put that in business for you. You have to, through your own innovation, through your own initiative, through your own know-how, your connections, all of this. And I think the fact that it's interesting you mentioned because you started with real estate and you said you failed miserably, but I think it was a lesson for you on how to make connection, how to talk to people. For 9 months, you did this. Now you went into the flooring business and you go like, I'm sure you use all of that experience to build this and then you start to bite. And then there you go. And now you go, okay, so let's start a business with Dina, right? Dina is your co-founder, I guess, I assume.
She actually helped support me while I got us up and running. So I was the founder and the original solo member of the company. She left her corporate job when we had our firstborn son. So 2021, she left her job and started to have a limited role inside of the business, just because she was taking care of our son. And then in 2022, she really stepped into this lead role. So she is the majority owner of the company. She does all of our marketing and sales. She is very, very good with people. She is, the face of the company. She's the reason that people want to come and talk to us. I'm the technical expert. I know a lot about a lot inside of construction, but when it comes to people, that's not my forte. I can have a conversation. I can talk to people. I am charming, but it drains me. It energizes Deanna. So she is definitely the voice and soul of the company for sure.
Well, I think you're doing another too bad job right now on this interview. You're doing great. I mean, again, I love talking to you. This is amazing. But wow. So what I'm hearing is you found a partner in life and in business that complements well with each other, right? And man, it requires lots of courage. It's not only a startup on the business, it's a startup on the marriage and a startup on the family. Okay.
A lot of things
Big
happen.
shoulders.
I know. Definitely, we've had a lot of conversations. A lot of tears have been shed. I mean, there's definitely it's not for the faint of heart. It is definitely something that can push you to your limits, but every time that you get there, as long as you have people who are supporting you and a partner who is ultimately looking out for the best interest of both of y'all,
Yeah.
you grow. You grow to be better people. A lot of the times, it's just our egos getting in our own way, and that is the biggest thing that I've learned as a business owner is just letting the pride go. It doesn't matter who did what or accomplished what, as long as everybody is making the money that they want, growing the way that they want to grow, it doesn't matter who is the one that actually signed the box or checked the box.
That makes a lot of sense. And I've seen this in many leaders, successful leaders as well. This ability to be humble, right? I mean, you talk to people that are like, multi-million, lots of businesses all over the place, and you talk to them and they're normal people, right? And is the person that feels like you feel like they push their presence on you, this person is not such a good leader. So that's probably one of the part of that secret sauce, so as to speak, in terms of your success, is that humility and also that care for not only you and the family and all that, but also for the staff and the team and the clients as well, right? That care, that wanting to make sure that everybody eats, right? It's also very, very important. I like to see that as a key core value in a business. Now, let's talk a little bit about Collins Construction. Uh, it's not like any construction business or construction company. You have developed a specific niche market, haven't you? And I'd like to talk a little bit about this, if you will, because that's very interesting. And I think this is one of the reasons you've grown so much. If you've developed that specialty, and you know that field, you know what that niche market needs and wants, and especially that I'm talking to the technical master here. So, let's talk about that niche. So, what is it? And let's talk a little bit about this.
So we actually, and this is a trend that happened back from the financial crash of 2008. So in 2008, when everything happened with financial crash in the United States, the biggest thing that we saw coming out of that was money got very cheap. So money became very cheap for investors to get and grab and whatever. And every year, everybody in the financial markets was saying, it can't stay this cheap forever. Well, in 2020, we saw the extension of this cheap money. And so a lot of people in this field that I went into became much larger contractors, much faster than they probably ever could have in any other time of the United States.
Mhm.
This growth was because money was so cheap, and what it allowed for investors to do is it allowed for them to build and build and build and build and build and build and develop and redevelop and all of this stuff. So all of these commercial contractors that are in our market started doing ground up builds. They started doing really big, awesome projects, skyscrapers, hotels, flex use development, green spaces, tilt up warehouses, all of these different things. They were really, really cool. And there was a market that got left behind. And the market that got left behind was these office renovations, tenant renovations, improvements, remodeling of existing spaces. This area essentially got neglected. And these projects are any projects that are between, it could be a $10,000 project, it could be a $3 million project. And these projects are the ones that kind of got left by the wayside. And for someone coming into the construction industry that had never worked in something quite to the scale that I do now,
Mhm.
when I got a call about a $5,000 job, I was like, why are people leaving this on the table? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Now, it makes a little more sense. They're kind of tedious. They take a lot of time and whatever else. But one of the things that we decided to focus on was this niche market in the commercial construction industry that was being it was hard to get into because there were some established footholds with these other people. There wasn't a lot of new people coming into the market. And there was just an expectation of what these contractors could do for a price because there was no new blood,
Mm.
essentially. So we were able to step in pretty quickly. That's why we've grown so much. We went from $0 in a market to hopefully eclipsing, $5 million in revenue in our fifth year, which is really exciting.
Wow.
So we've doubled and doubled and doubled, and actually we might triple this year, which is kind of crazy. But we have continued to grow and grow and grow. And it is simply because there was this gap, there was this huge hole that needed to be filled, and there was no new blood inside of that market. not a whole lot of young companies inside of what we're doing.
Oh, that's great. So how did you identify? Okay, so how did you come up on that? It's almost like a gold mine, right? You go like, well, nobody's taking care of these people. We will, right? And then you stepped up. So how did you come about realizing this?
So this was it was all an accident. Golden accident kind of deal. We started to service this a sport account very early on in
Hmm.
the company that I was previously working for, and that company is Sporta LA Fitness. They changed their name during COVID, but they came with me when I started my new company. So when
Okay.
Collums Construction started, this Sporta account came with me, and when when we were doing that, we didn't really know our identity. We didn't know who our target market was. We didn't know the person that we wanted to talk to. We just knew we've got to make money. Let's take whatever we can. So we were just grabbing, trying to find all this stuff. And what actually happened was this past year, our growth, sorry, not this past year, at the end of 2023, our growth had stalled. It was the first year that we hadn't seen just this unprecedented growth, and we couldn't really figure out why. Because we were killing it every year, doubling in size. And the from 2022 to 2023, we only grew $100,000 in revenue, which was a really, really small number for us.
Right.
And so we looked at this and we kind of dove into what we were looking at. And we had some guys doing residential jobs for investors. We had some guys doing commercial flooring. We had some guys doing this tenant infill stuff that was over here in the commercial general contracting world. We had some guys doing this property maintenance stuff for the sport account. So we were spread thin
Right.
all
All over the
all
place,
different
right?
directions. Yeah. And so we weren't being excellent in any single area. We were really just throwing crap and seeing if it stuck.
Right.
And so what we did is we started to isolate and cut off what we didn't want to do. We didn't want to be a residential contractor, so we said no more. We don't do that anymore. We realized how detrimental flooring was to our cash flow and our relationships with these certain people that we were trying to sell to. So we ended up deciding to let that go. And so we slowly, at the end of 2023, we realized, all right, so we are a commercial general contractor who specializes in projects under $3 million. That's how we pitch ourselves. This is what we do. And it's kind of hard to sell that to someone just because a dollar value is a little confusing, especially on the front end of the project. $3 million, that's a big span of what can actually be accomplished. We're currently building a job or building out a job. It's a 16,000 square foot warehouse. It's being converted into an office, a warehouse that's having bunch of stuff added to it, and then a wash bay for cars to go through. All of that is under $3 million. And so there's a lot of stuff that can be accomplished in that price range that takes a little bit getting used to, but we've started to really settle into it and be able to have the conversations with the people. But essentially, we can do everything. We say we just don't do ground up builds, and that's kind of how we've started to isolate the market and really focus in this one area.
It's very it's very interesting what you're saying because I see a business that started and then matured in
Yeah.
terms of an identity, right? A business. It's like a person. It evolves, right? You go to an infancy, childhood, and it gets into teenager, and then when you finish to be a teenager, you have to find out, okay, so what am I going to do with my life? So then you go, okay, I'm going to be doing this, and this is what works, right? You try this, you try this, you try this, and okay, that's what works for us. And the fact that you isolate, you took some time to go, okay, so now let's cut off the stuff that is not on our main purpose line. And you streamline all of our action. And now you've got a team that is very well focused on what matters the most. And this is like really well done. I mean, this is leadership at its best, really. I mean, well done to both of you, Dina and Taylor. It's very, very good. Now, when you grow, when growth means increased volume, right? It has to be, I hope. So if there's more volume, that means like your staff have to deal with more, and then you have to add more staff. You have to set up system. As you grow, the system that used to work like 4 years ago, well, it's not working now. So my other question to you is how do you evolve those systems to be able to handle the growth as you scale up? I'd like to hear about how you do it.
So, we actually have, I'd say there's been two distinct moments in which we've grown significantly. And in the first one, it's me and Deanna trying to set all of these systems up and do everything ourselves. And you're pushing this system out now. And really what you're doing, I like to compare it to roads. So when I first started the company, I had a single road. I had one roadway. I went in and I went out, and I was the only person doing it. So it was very easy for me to navigate this single road. Then when Deanna came along, there was two people, so we almost needed this two-lane road system. And so everybody wasn't getting in each other's way. We kind of realized this is what works best. As you add staff, there's a whole new navigation to everything. So you can still use a two-lane road, but it's a little slower. And that's what happened. So for a couple of years, we used a two-lane road. It's a little bit slower, a little clunky. And we realized that a lot of our stuff was breaking. And so what we had to look into was technology. Technology was the biggest saving grace for a lot of stuff. CRMs helped, manage all of our customers, kept up with any of the projects that we had ongoing. We had an accounting software to start with, but you upgrade those accounting softwares to have better features, to have all these different things. You outsource some of your projects or outsource some of your tasks to other professional trades. Those are the types of things that we had to start looking into to be able to support the growth that we needed. We didn't need a full-time person to take care of our books. We needed an accounting firm that could take care of them kind of as we went. Then there was the distinct growth of which we experienced in the past year. That demanded whole new systems, really, business level enterprise packages for software, a lot of those items, and developing SOPs. When you start to have somebody that you're managing more people, the SOP becomes so much more important than if they're coming to you. It's helpful for me, right? If I have a standard operating procedure, somebody can immediately refer to, they don't have to come to me, that's fine. But when, I'm going to use Anderson. Anderson's our guy right now. So if Anderson is trying to get the people that he's managing to do something repetitive over and over and over again, but he wants it done the way that I need it done, then there has to be an SOP and understanding for him to communicate that to the people that are underneath him. So this year has been a lot of building out SOPs, making sure that the structures for these people are understood, roles and deliverables are all spelled out. There's a reporting system of how we get the information back up to, the C-suite people. And that's been a really difficult thing to navigate because you still have to run your business while doing all this. So that's the hardest part is how do you find the time? How do you have work-life balance? How do you make sure your staff doesn't get burnt out? All the fun things that come along with that. And so we have started to do bite-sized tasks is kind of how we're doing it. You don't want to eat the elephant all at once. You want to eat it piece by piece. Right. So we assign small implementation items to each one of our team members. So if I was trying to do all of it, one person can accomplish, let's say, 1 hour of implementation items a week. Well, if we have a staff of 8 people, well, now we're accomplishing 8 hours of implementation items a week, and that compounds all year long. So it becomes we're able to take leaps and bounds to really, really push us along. And so that's, you asked about the staff and kind of growth and all of that, but the biggest thing is trying to keep everybody aligned and moving forward without burning everybody out in the process.
Absolutely. I mean, there's such a, I mean, I just did a whole talk about this over expansion. How do you expand so much that the organization just collapse under the volume? And this is where it becomes very hard to, because you expand because you got goodwill, because people trust you and you've developed a good service. But if you grow too fast without those SOPs and all of this, then you end up just people messing it up underneath. Now you've got to come down and handle this. Nobody's leading anymore. The whole organization collapses on itself, and it's a nightmare. But again, seems like you've got a nice rhythm on this. This is great, and it's a great advice for the people that are watching Beyond Business as Usual to scale properly. It's so easy to go, oh my God, we can do this $10 million, contract. Let's do this, right? But that 10 million contract is going to take everybody else's juice and everything else I mean, ugh. So you got to be smart about how you lead your staff, and you got to understand, like you say, the workload and adjusting it and bringing more people in, making sure they know the SOPs and all that stuff. It's all about establishment and having something that actually will scale. This is great. Look, I could talk to you for hours, right? This is so interesting. Taylor, however, we're pretty much at the end of our talk today. Um, Before we leave, any particular uh how do you get through the day? What's successful for you in terms of as a manager, as a business owner? How do you, in about just a few words here, how do you manage everything? How do you keep everything in line for you? What's your secret on this?
Man, that's a really great question. I think it actually comes back to a book that I read a long time ago. That book is called The One Thing. It's by Gary Keller. And what it talks about is whatever you're doing right now in this moment is the most important thing. So my talk with you right now is the most important thing in this moment. And so I'm going to do this wholeheartedly. And when I get done with it, I don't have to think about it ever again because I gave you everything that I had. And so in my day to day, when I go home at night, I know that I've done a good job. When I put my kids down at night, I know that I've done a good job. When I wake up in the morning, I know that I did a good job. Those are the types of things that I always refer back to is if in this one moment I can give it everything that I have, and that's not always great. You know, sometimes you're burnt and it happens, but if I can give it as much as I can in that moment, that is what allows me to lay down at night and go to sleep.
I love it. It is your secret. It is your secret. I just want you to know it works. It works very well. It makes a lot of sense, and it's very wise. Okay, good. Well, on that note, fantastic. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me, Taylor. I appreciate that. That was fantastic. And for the rest, for the audience, well, I'll see you next time on the next episode. Thank you very much. Bye for now.